Alright, good evening everyone. This is the Select Board Water Commissioner meeting for July 12th of 2021. I'll read the agenda and then we'll jump right into things here. So on tonight's agenda, under new business, we've got approved meeting minutes. We need to sign warrants. We need to sign the 21-22 Franklin County Sheriff contract. We need to discuss the Missisquoi Hydro appeal. Do that in executive session, I think. And then under old business, we need to keep plugging away at this FireArm Ordinance, or FireArm, whatever we want to call it for now. But alright, so I guess we might as well start with the FireArm business there. You wanna?
Yeah, so thank you for coming tonight. Sheriff's Department was also supposed to be here, but basically due to some recent activity in the last 6 months, the town of Sheldon is talking about creating a gun ordinance due to a couple of major issues where, you know, bullets are flying past people's heads and or into their vehicles going over roads. But we asked law enforcement to come, and I talked with game wardens a little bit to see if there is some sort of way to combat that without taking rights away from law-abiding citizens who are being, you know, there's a lot of people who lived in the town for a long time that may discharge a firearm in a safe manner, been here forever, and we don't want to take that right away from them, but at the same time we want to protect people. And you know, we're really just trying to figure out what are the laws. We want to educate the board before we go forward with a decision on you know, potentially having to create an ordinance that takes rights away from responsible people, but we also want the irresponsible people to cut it out.
Sure.
And you know, we had some pretty close calls, and the other night, you know, I heard, it was 10:30 at night, I heard 24 shots go off between 10:30 and midnight. You know, it was a small, maybe 22 caliber or something. It wasn't, well, it's just like, what are you shooting at 10:30 at night? I mean, nothing probably good. Guessing you might have a few beers in you, maybe not, but you know, what's, you know, and what are repercussions without an ordinance? Because I believe the folks behind you had, these guys are people who had really close calls where they're on their own property and they're having to duck behind trees because automatic rifles are being shot into the trees, and you know, we just want to figure out how to keep the townspeople safe. And if it's an ordinance and that is that, or if there's laws or what.
Yep. So full disclosure, I'm not in charge of barracks or
Sure.
anything here. I'm on patrol in this area tonight. So.
Yep.
But what I will say is, in my opinion, the firearms is kind of two different issues. You probably could be divided, one into safety and one into nuisance, if that makes sense.
Right.
So there are definitely laws, and I believe some have been investigated as such or even charged in Sheldon recently. There's reckless endangerment as a crime in which people are put into some sort of danger. There is a firearms provision in that. Also in terms of, I believe there's been some vehicle vandalisms by firearm.
Yep.
That is also criminal in nature and is investigated as such to the extent that we can investigate it. So those are kind of the existing laws, and the way that our investigation will kind of lead is the way those laws are written. In terms of the firearms ordinance, I don't know necessarily that would cover anything that the laws don't. I would say, I've worked in a different municipality that had a firearms ordinance, and it was a strict zero tolerance policy for firearms discharging in the city, and I believe it was geared more towards the noise. But that would be kind of my assumption with an ordinance. But I would definitely maybe look at some other towns that have firearms ordinances to kind of get an idea of what you're looking at in terms of what it prohibits, who it protects, and kind of what the penalties and punishments are, and who does the enforcement. So
We've looked at a bunch of them, and there's so many different things you can do. And obviously, it's based on the enforcement. I mean, some of them have a town constable that can enforce it. Mainly it's penalties, you know, and the dollar amount increases per violation, but, I just think that the board's really just looking for what are the real laws, where are our protectors, who do we call, who do the townspeople call, and it sounds like having an ordinance isn't going to necessarily change anything.
So it may, and obviously I can't tell the future, but if people do abide by the ordinance, I know there have been some cases where people weren't necessarily intending to put other people in danger, but an ordinance like that might be able to limit some of those things, maybe not get rid of it entirely, but it might be able to mitigate some of that issue. But again, that would operate under the assumption that people do abide by it.
Right.
So.
To affect change, like, you know, we said the residents behind you, they're on their own property and bullets, you know, come flying through and they're put in danger.
Yeah.
What would you advise residents to do to affect the change? Do they need actual press charges when these things happen, call in that instant? I mean, it's one of those things where nobody wants to be the bad guy,
Sure.
but there's a reasonable expectation you could be on your property working your sugar lines like Forrest was doing, and
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
nobody should have to deal with that.
Right.
But if we don't know about it, we can't investigate it. You know, we're not here all the time.
Right.
It's not like we'll be present as this is happening per se. So cooperation without one making the call. If you feel like, you know, bullets are flying past your house, then you know you're in some sort of danger. Feel free to call the police. I know the schedule kind of changes between sheriffs and us, but I mean, a situation like that, 911 will be able to kind of direct you to the appropriate agency. And then, yeah, I mean, cooperation with us, giving us statements if you can. And a lot of this, for it to continue to go further, a lot of people, you know, we show up and I think that's kind of it. But there's a lot that goes behind the scenes. We do the investigation, we have to take statements. We send this to the state's attorney's office. There's a whole court process. You know, and for charges to come forth, a lot of times the state's attorney's office is going to want cooperation with somebody who's identified as a victim.
mm-hmm.
So all those things will definitely go a long way into, if, you know, criminal charges are the answer, then those things will definitely help with that.
And is there anything, you know, for like what Joe was talking about with some happening at certain hours of the night? Is there some sort of sound, you know, noise?
There is a noise in the nighttime statute.
Okay.
For state Vermont. It covers basically sundown to sunrise, unreasonable noise. I can't quote for you the exact verbiage right now, but it's called noise in the nighttime if you'd like to look it up. Again, that would kind of be a cooperation thing.
Yeah.
For example, if you know we're only 10 to 15 minutes out, but by the time we get here, they're not doing it anymore. There's only so much you can go on without meeting with somebody, taking a statement. So on and so forth, because we're not actively observing this in progress. So there are rules. How far we go with it kind of depends on the situation and the level of cooperation. I understand some people want to call the police and don't want to be involved, and that's okay. But in certain situations, that can limit how effective our response is.
Okay. And then for the gun owners, if they believe that they're in the right and they have a berm on the end of their property and that, is there a way that we can actually verify with, like, is there someone that can come out and inspect the edge of their property and let them know, like, yes, or there's still dangers of ricochets or anything like that they have to be liable for?
I don't know that that's something we do.
Okay.
My gut would say no, but I'd have to follow up on that and have somebody get back to you to see if.
I've talked to the sheriff's department about it, and it's kind of a huge liability for the sheriff's department. Like, they go and inspect it, say you're safe to shoot here, and bullet ricochets, and who's. So I don't think.
Yeah, I don't want to come out and say no.
Yeah.
But I think it's highly likely that's not something we would do.
Well, we had seen in some of the ordinances I read where, you know, an official, it just said an official, didn't say who, can inspect your property and grant you the right to discharge a firearm in a safe manner, and that was kind of something that we were hoping we could do, just for those people who have been living here for 30 years on the same property, and they go sight their rifles in every fall or whatever, and you know, it's never been a problem. But you know, in all honesty, those aren't the people that we're trying to control, right? Because they're they're shooting their hunting rifle, and setting it in, it's fine, you know, we've had instances where people are shooting assault rifles at all hours of the night, and to the point where they have to move, they're literally having to move out of their house because they have a young child. And young child's not in danger, but it's being woken up all the time, and that's like, you know, what do we do in that aspect? And if, you know, if somebody was unlawfully discharging their firearm or disturbing the peace, do they lose their firearms for a period of time? Or it depends on the case?
So firearms, it's really case dependent.
Yeah.
Firearm seizure is really dependent kind of on the case. Whether the firearm seized for evidence is different than if it's seized for like protection, like an extreme risk protection order, because the court or judge has ordered that that person can't own firearms or possess them for a period of time. So it kind of depend on the circumstances of the case if the firearms will be seized or not, and to what extent. Like if they own multiple firearms, like to what extent all of them or just the one.
Right.
So it is pretty complicated, but it happens, especially if it's for evidence.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, do you have any questions back there since you have, sorry? I just wanted to give you the opportunity because this affected you, Forrest, and your family. I didn't know if you had any questions.
I guess I'll just share our experience again.
Are we in executive session?
No.
It's okay, I'm good. You know, we had experiences with the budding landowners, essentially using our property as a backstop. They have very small parcels, you know, acre land, flat topography. You know, they fire firearms for recreational purposes. You know, this isn't just something sighting in a deer rifle. This is something they do for fun, for on the weekend for hours and hours, or at night too. That's a sort of a separate thing. But all of those projectiles are traveling onto our property. And I had called a number of. I called the sheriff, called the state police and everything, describing the situation, and it was sort of told me that there wasn't anything that they could do until something had happened. And I was left with the impression that, you know, it's a crime, you know, if I was out there and I got hit, then it's a crime. But if I'm not out there, it's, you know, at what point does it become a crime? We haven't had any luck following that avenue. To try to get it to stop, so I don't know if there was any other advice that you might have for us, because it sort of continues.
Yeah, I mean, especially it gets complicated with ongoing issues, and I do understand that. But I'm in a situation where I'm unfamiliar with the incident, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So this is definitely something that I can talk to my superiors about to kind of.
Is there a situation where you could show up on property and it could be so visually clear that it's unsafe that you could stop somebody from doing that activity?
Yeah, I mean, so
if you could show up and say it is not possible for you to be responsible discharging a firearm from this property, could you put a stop to that?
I mean, it would depend on the circumstances. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, and I know that's not an answer you want to hear.
No,
I
is there? Could you see it being
I'm
possible?
sure. Yeah, it's possible that if there's a situation in which somebody's like discharging a firearm unsafely, where I would look at it and be like, if that
without witnessing it, like if you saw the amount of damage on our property, that it was, you know, undeniably not being responsible.
Sure. I mean, you know, it's definitely an incident that could be investigated, and you know, because you have to determine. There's a lot of things that go into these. You know, so it's.
Sure.
And again, I know it's not what you want to hear, but one, identifying who it is.
Yep.
That's always like the number one step in an investigation. Is, you know, okay, what is the crime? Who did it?
Yep.
You know, and sometimes
There's
you know,
sort of no witness because
yeah.
you know we're half a mile away.
So like I said, it's hard to say, you know, without specific circumstances, but you know, there's definitely areas where I've seen where it's like, oh, you know, somebody shooting a gun here, it wouldn't be safe.
Yeah.
You know, but in terms of where the investigation would go, depending on circumstances.
And we didn't call, and thank you, we didn't call you to put you on the spot or anything
Yeah.
like that, it was just one of those things where, as a public forum, we want people to know what they can do, what actions they can
What
take,
options they
yes.
have.
What can they do in this instance as, if they're someone in their woods and they're being fired at, or if they're the gun owner, to protect themselves, to make sure that they're being responsible,
Right,
so that
and,
this sort of thing doesn't continue in the community.
yep, and I totally understand that, as a citizen as well, like, that's a concern everybody has. But in the business we're in, like, I'm not in a position to give legal advice or anything like that in terms of, what if this happens, is self-defense okay? Like, I'm not in a position where I can confidently or even, I think ethically, just give somebody either a green or red light on what they can and can't do.
So the best steps they
Because
can take.
every situation and circumstance is different. The person firing the firearm probably has different perceptions of the people on the receiving end. That person might not even know that it's happening, so things get complicated and convoluted very quickly. So, I would say, 911, if firearms discharge is involved and you think,
So,
you're in
If,
some sort of danger, 911 would probably be the appropriate response.
so if the town did have some sort of firearm ordinance and you got a 911 call that there was, would that change your investigation at all, or would you still be going out there?
It would depend on the circumstances. If somebody's, firing a .22 at night in their backyard, it's different than, I'm getting shot at.
Well, one of the ordinances we were looking at is you cannot fire a firearm within 500 feet of abutting property. And on a lot of properties that would solve, on their property, that would solve the issue because they don't have enough
Sure.
room to fire within 500 feet. Is that enough to get the cops out there to either seize the firearm or say this is not okay? Or is it just a town rule that,
So that would not, like, just a violation of the ordinance alone, just.
Get a fine.
State police isn't gonna seize somebody's firearm for
Right.
that. But in terms of call response and what that would look like, depending on whether state police or sheriffs are covering, that's something that I'm gonna have to defer up,
sure,
to Lieutenant Parton on that one,
okay.
so. But I'm taking notes here and I'll pass it along as
And I'd
well.
have to be happy to give you my email or phone
Sure.
number to have them follow me.
Appreciate it.
Alright.
Yeah, I think, yeah, if I could, get if you wanna give me a contact that I can talk to, they
Yes.
might be able to answer some of these questions through email or phone call, I'd be happy to reach out and see, how, best way to really take this.
Yes, so Lieutenant Parton
Yep.
is the commander of St. Albans Barracks, which covers this area.
Yep.
His information is available on the VSP website. If you just
Okay.
click on St. Albans Barracks, it has his phone number, email,
Perfect.
all that kind of stuff. But if you wanna give me your email or a point of contact here, I'm sure he has it.
Yep.
But just to make sure that,
I'll reach out to them.
okay,
Yeah.
sounds good. So.
We appreciate your time and coming in.
Yeah, absolutely, and I will just say, like, I understand your concerns about wanting people to be able to shoot and stuff like that, and so, these situations get really complicated, and sometimes it might take a little creativity beyond enforcement action too. Maybe finding a way for people to have a place to shoot safely, might always be an option, I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
it's sometimes nice for people to have options beyond enforcement action. I know a lot of times it seems like a one-stop shop, be like, oh, we just enforce it and it's done, but maybe, talking with people, find out what they think as well, what people want in terms of firearms and rules.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Alright, thank you for your time. Hi, Ruth and Homer, how are you?
Hi.
What can we do for you tonight?
Well, the reason we stopped by to talk to you guys,
Thank you.
as you know, a couple of years ago, I bought 32 acres on the Fort Farm Road. It's right across from the dump, the old, this is like mill.
Yeah.
And, bought it from the town. It was a tax sale.
Yep.
And,
Thank you.
and lo and behold, the town did not give it the right of way to it, which ain't legal. If you sell land, you're supposed to give a right of way, right?
I don't know.
And the only way I can get a right of way, I guess, is sue the town. I don't want to sue the town. Somebody is interested in buying it. They want to put a house up there. And I don't have a right of way to it. It's only 200 feet, for Christ's sake. See that upper left-hand road? That's
That's
Still-
the farmer.
so you can see how close it is.
So whose land is it in between there?
It's the school. The school owns that land. And the town forest, or whatever they call it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, 80% of those trails up there are on my property.
Hmm.
I don't say anything. In order to not have to backtrack, they go in on the right, and they cut across mine and back down. Otherwise, they just have just one side to travel, you know? It's trails all over. You must know that property. Everybody does. And four-wheelers, dirt bikes up in there for 50 years. Well, maybe not quite that long, but it's a well-known piece of property. And it was logged off 40 years ago, 82 I think it was.
That was some of that Villanova land up there?
Some of what?
That Villanova land up there?
Yeah, right. No one didn't pay his taxes,
Yeah, yeah.
so the town auctioned it off, or whatever you call it. And I bought it. I've been paying taxes on it a couple of years.
Yeah.
Didn't think too
How'd
much.
they access it? There was
Logs
no,
are back.
they never had a right of way, or they split that part off from
Well,
a bigger.
Our firm, Sheldon Home Association, has already owned that property for over 50 years. That property, Sheldon Woods, or whatever they call it, I don't know, was traded with the newest colony. I think it was some Daniel owned that farm. Somebody, whoever owned the farm, the newest colony farm, back in 1903 or whatever, they traded 25 acres for this property.
Hmm.
And this property, it went on for, I don't know, 50, 60 years. And as Sheldon Home Association property. And then they sold it to a government, and he logged it off,
Yeah.
and then he gave it up. But the logs are coming back. Of course, I don't want to cut logs anyway. I don't cut a tree. And, but it is nice up there. You know, it has no power right now. But it's got a brook. Well, you know where it is. It's Briette's Meadow,
Yeah.
borders it.
Yeah.
And it's all wooded, the whole thing. 32 acres. And with how good is it, you don't have a legal right of way. You know, the town should have put that in there when they deeded it to me. You know?
When did you purchase it, Homer?
About 2 years ago, 3 maybe.
Yeah.
It's
Same
2016.
tax sale at,
What year was it?
2016.
16.
Wow, time's marching
Really?
on.
Time flies, doesn't it?
Well, I'm paying taxes on it for nothing. No, I don't use it, I don't even hunt it. A lot of people do, and they're successful in there too. But somebody else would like to build a house up there, and I can't really sell it without a right of way.
Can't sell it if you can't get on there.
Well, it's only 200 feet, Bill, from the road to that corner. How much closer could you possibly get?
That's-
And it's already, the road's already there. It's just the road that they go up in there
Hmm.
is there already.
Yeah.
But it needs improvement. I mean, the trees are grown in where you can just get through. But let me, let you guys think about it.
If you spoke to anybody from the school,
No,
like school board at all?
gotta speak to the selectmen first. Because they're the ones basically sold it without a right of way.
Yeah. You're the one that bought it without a right of way.
Nobody told me it was. It should have been, some kind of, what do they call it?
Title search.
Covenants, is go in. But even if there wasn't a right of way, you can't keep a right of way from somebody. You can't be landlocked,
Gets
no matter what. You can't force, you know, you can't. Somebody's gotta sell a right of way. And I think it'd be a lot cheaper to buy it from you guys than it would, React, right? Sell it out.
It's not town land anymore though.
Pardon?
That's not town, that's to the district, the school district
Well, whatever.
owns that property.
It goes back to the people that sold it with no right of way. They're the ones liable.
Let me do some research on that.
Yeah, I definitely want you to, because
Okay.
I'm in no hurry, really. You must know that you can't have somebody landlocked. I mean, that's a state law. Okay, who else have I got to get the right of way from? I mean, there's a 200-foot belt, and the road's already there. And it's been there for about 50 years or more.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll look into it, see what we can figure out.
So, come back to another meeting, or you write me a letter, or what do you wanna do?
Yeah, I'll either get a hold of you or something, or if I don't get a hold of you within a couple weeks, or come back to the next meeting.
Okay. But,
We'll see if we
How
can
much,
figure.
you said there's a lot of those trails that are on that property?
trails?
Trails for the,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, I walked the trails yesterday, actually.
yes. Oh, that one's cut.
There's hunting blinds, everything up in there.
Pardon?
There's hunting blinds and everything else up in there.
It's supposed to be.
I saw 4 yesterday.
Are you kidding me?
No.
On my property?
Well, I was walking the school pass, I don't know what, I don't know how much of those are on your
They're
property.
supposed to be there unless they ask.
Yeah,
Nobody's asked me.
there was 4 pop-up ones. But anyway, we kinda got lost in the woods, just following trails, we ended up in Briette's field,
Yeah,
found a dead calf or moose.
Well,
But anyway,
you walked across mine.
well, I'm just wondering, I mean, how much of those schools trails, actual schools trails are on your property?
Probably 80%.
Okay.
And that's gonna, well, it's a liability for me, I suppose. I've walked up in there before and walked on ledges that I could hardly make it. No trees down across the ledge, you gotta hang on to get across the ledge, it's like this. So if somebody gets hurt up in there, I'll probably am to blame. But there is hunting shacks there.
Yeah.
You went right straight across from the Sweet Hollow, Poor Farm Road?
We were there for like 3 hours the other
What
day.
are you doing on my property?
Walking, just following the blue and the red signs. I was looking for an easement for you.
Oh,
No, but, no, I just follow the school signs. They got all, grandmother tree, this tree, that tree, everything
Yeah.
else up there.
yeah, the map,
Yeah,
is it still up, or they took it down while the renovation?
yeah,
Now they got it back up where you can see where the trails are?
yeah.
Well, they still have a lot of land on both sides of it.
Yeah,
What they do, they go down and they come back a different route.
right.
So,
Bullhill usually disappeared earlier.
I guess 2 or 3. This year, he just found out that it was my property. He didn't even know it was my property. Whatever. So I should check out those huts, whatever, canvas things or?
Yeah, first one I saw, I thought there was a bed in there. Might have been, I don't know what.
Well, I don't post my property. I don't like, I like to have them ask, but they don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I don't know what I gotta do, really. I'm sure if it went to court, that the judge would say that's the shortest distance and the least impact to other neighbors that won't sell. If they tell you right out, they ain't gonna sell, like Briette's, they never sell. Where else, how else you gonna get in there?
Yeah.
There's no way in there, except that. But Poor Farm did own it for years already.
Hmm.
But it was under a different name, it was the Sheldon Woods Association. And it was an even swap, 25 acres, 32 acres. And that's probably why the right-of-ways weren't going up. There's a ton of right-of-ways on that Poor Farm.
Was it?
If I looked them up, studied them, they're probably there anyway. Because there's so many of them, it's hard to understand, like, you can't cross certain land unless the hay's been cut. A certain time of the year, you can only cross,
Yeah.
and, all kinds of right-of-ways.
Huh.
But, oh well. So we'll go along.
Yeah, we'll look into it.
A couple weeks.
Yep,
Uh,
see what we can find out.
At least you can tell me what to do.
Yeah,
If we can't sell it to me, or give it to me, which it should have went to the property. But whatever, I bought it cheap enough so that.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Have a good week, guys.
have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You don't want to stay because I'm sure the rest is top secret.
No,
Signs and
you
stuff,
can,
well, let's do that for a while.
you can stay if you'd like.
No, there's no whole
Well,
bunch.
welcome to stay. It's all on camera, so we don't get to hide anything on.
Just kidding.
I know.
Ready?
Yeah.
Sue, have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Batter up.
Yeah, well, sign some more. I'll read the meeting minutes.
Did David leave, or is he just taking a
I
call?
think he just did a
Just, yeah, pager was off.
Yeah.
so.
Thought it was Pager. I haven't heard one.
We still got 3 of us, so we're still legal meeting here, so. Select Board Water Commissioner meeting minutes from June 28th of 2021. Present was Stephen Dodd, Joseph Dunleavy, David Klubit, Kim Dufresne, Jamie Whitehead, Robert Fletcher, and Seth Cattell. Opened the meeting at 7:30 and read the agenda. Joe made a motion to go into executive session to discuss the tax appeal with this Missisquoi Hydro with the town attorney, Robert Fletcher. 8 o'clock, motion made by David to exit executive and enter back into regular session, seconded by Joe. And we signed warrants 2125 and 2126. I read the meeting minutes from June 14th. Joe motion to accept was read, seconded by David. All in favor? Select board approved the road cut for Cody West on the East Sheldon Road. And Seth Cattell, road foreman, gave us an update, paving Macy Road, Sheldon Woods Road, which they started the Macy Road today. And he's gonna get us a list of the repairs the 1-ton truck needs, so we can make some decisions on that before winter. Board asked Seth for a list of repairs needed, and we will discuss that later. And we okayed running an ad in the paper for the highway position. Joe made a motion to adjourn and seconded by David, and all in favor. The meeting adjourned at 8:30. Take a motion to accept these minutes as read.
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as read.
Alright, I get a second on that.
A second.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Alright. This, Ben Weed that's looking or asking about recoating the basketball court, he contact you, yeah?
Yeah, he did call, he came in and did his water bill and he said he has a church group that could do the work, but we would have to supply the material.
Gristmill.
So we can just reseal it with
Just, that's just to reseal it, yes.
Well, it needs to be.
Is it?
It needs another coat.
Well, it's on the roadside, it's got a dip in it where you can't really play on that side of the court if it rains. We did talk about it a couple of, last year about seeing if Bushy would give us a quote. We also talked about maybe seeing if they could, you know, my thought was on that whole park, if they could put a blacktop curb, so you can flood it, you know, blacktop curb with a, you know, you'd have to have an exit on both ends, or 4 ends maybe, but then you would literally have to just put a 4x4 and some plastic down to flood it in the wintertime, and it would be better than, summertime.
That'd be on the inside of the fence, the curb?
Yeah, I mean, make the basketball court a little short, but it's not like, but it, you know, like right now, I go down there every day and like, I don't know who's doing it, but they're throwing the 4x4s or the, whatever they are, 6x6s all over, and I can just imagine whoever's mowing is getting annoyed because they have to go down and move all those every time. Cause I don't know where we used to store those, the town garage,
Yeah.
or your garage?
No, they used to be stored there, on the back, I think, in the back part of it.
Over by where the bench is there, yeah.
You could bring them over to the town garage.
Yeah, I mean,
Put them out of the way.
put them under a tarp over there anyway too, but, I don't, I mean, you could seal coat it, I guess, but it's not gonna do much.
Right.
And then they just painted it for the
Pickleball.
pickleball. I'd like to get it, you know, it'd be nice to have it painted for pickleball and basketball. But there's no point doing it until you get, you know, the court shimmed up a little bit.
So it needs shim coat to get it leveled back up.
I mean, really what it should be like any other road, or most basketball courts are about an inch higher in the middle than they are on the sides. And then you'd have to just make sure your berm would cover the, you know, would be however much higher than you want for the ice. But I seen, down in Bristol, they have one, and it's for their town, and they basically, I think it's Bristol, I can't remember where it is. But I noticed it, and you know, the water runs down it like a curb, and just goes out in the low ends, and then in the wintertime, it takes nothing to flood it. So, I don't know. We talked about looking into it a couple years ago, or never really.
We never got a quote.
I can call Bushy's.
Yeah, get a quote, let's see, I mean, well, I know what it's gonna entail, so I get a quote. Somebody, and we can make a decision whether it's worth it or not.
I can let Ben know, go in September, I'll call him and let him know that we're gonna get a quote to repay before.
Okay. And do we have the sheriff contract?
There's also, someone wanted to use the boardroom to do some, I don't know what she's gonna do, credit, to help people with their credit.
Credit counseling.
Yeah. If that's something-
It's, hosting free financial counseling for Sheldon residents. Who she work for?
Buy it,
It says, appreciate you asking the Sheldon Selectboard to consider approving the use of the boardroom for a one-day opportunity for Sheldon residents to stop and speak confidentially with me, an Opportunities Credit Union financial educator, about their personal budget, credit, or other financial concerns. There's no cost for this service. As I wrote in my June letter to you, Opportunities Credit Union is a Vermont nonprofit focused on improving the financial strength and stability of Vermonters and our communities. They're striving to spread the word throughout northern Vermont and to increase utilization of our free services. I'm attaching this to an email, a PDF, or a flyer that I mailed to you, so you can be sure email to the select board as they consider the idea I'm suggesting. What day did she want it for? Did she have a,
she didn't have a date.
She didn't have a
I think
date.
she originally had like July 28th, but I don't know if that was just gonna be application.
so she would check with you and make sure that, does anybody have any issues with a non-profit using our boardroom for a day?
No.
Yeah, Joe? Alright, I'll, take a motion, we, let this nonprofit use our boardroom for a day, and she'll check with Kim on a good day to do it, I guess.
Make a motion.
Alright,
I'll second it.
alright, all in favor? Alright. Let her know, I guess. Have you looked this over? This is the,
I have not been.
Those are just truck payments, I mean, one's the backhoe, one's.
Yeah, just from one account to the other, basically.
Yeah, just sign it, just to say.
Oh,
that I
sign
showed
these?
you,
Oh, sign all
that
three
showed
of
it
these?
to
I
you.
gotcha. Thought you were just doing this in quicker for you on the side. Yeah, just like transfer from one account to the other, basically, with the payroll.
before we discuss it, or after we go into executive session?
There's one for each of you, David, if you have paper, put that, everybody should have a copy.
That's just a type correction we can do.
What's that?
There's a
Give us
copy
the-
for everybody.
Oh, there it is, okay.
These are those short.
Look at that for I guess.
Just 40
I thought it was
I
long
don't
winded.
think- what is it, what is it, what is it?
Usually is when it's an attorney. Yeah. Big one.
What's this one about? Not just something that happens every year?
Nope, that's,
Yeah, that's what I
it's
thought.
an assessment we have to do one every town gets that.
Right, okay.
Did we wanna sign this, or we just?
Is it what you spoke to him about?
It's very close to what we spoke about. In conversation, you know, he had mentioned that their costs are gonna go up. Last year we were $50 an hour, this year it's 65. So it's gonna impact the hours. So instead of 12, we're gonna have 10 hours a week for our blocks, and I think they can carry the extra 2 hours, group it week to week. You know, they can do the last 2 hours on a Sunday, and the first 2 hours the following week that same Sunday, so it still stays in a 4-hour block. There's nothing on here about, you know, as far as the equipment, I'm not sure if that would be in these contracts for the ATV enforcement that they had indicated that they might be able to provide for us, but I'm sure that's a conversation we can have with them if they'd be willing to assist with, but
Isn't that through Bassett?
for the enforcement, no. The enforcement still comes from our local law enforcement.
Cause I thought Bassett had hours for the sheriff to patrol.
They do, I think, for their trails.
Well, I know they said from our camp.
They think they furnish the sheriff's department with an ATV.
Mhm.
I think they already have, okay, so for the roads, that just for the trails, or, cause we're talking about the roads?
Well, but even if you ride our roads, you have to walk the rest.
Bassett.
Okay,
That's part of the deal, you got you have to be a massive member, so.
Okay.
Their membership's growing, so they're looking to help enforce and keep the trails and the roads safe.
I mean, yeah, I guess that's a conversation for when, you know, if we have a problem and we want them to do that for us, but other than that, there's nothing.
But I think
They've
the
shown
last couple of
anyway.
years, our police coverage has been adequate. I think we
Yeah.
haven't had much for complaints.
Not
Not
bad.
members,
No, I'm just looking at the hours per,
yeah,
for the dollar.
right. But I'm saying,
Yeah.
I don't think we need to up it to
No,
40 hours or anything, because I believe the town's been pretty quiet, you know, as far as, I mean, you still get your hoodlums racing up and down the roads, but
They'll do
you'd have to have 24-hour coverage if you were gonna try to, you
3 cops too.
know.
Yeah.
I haven't received any complaints or haven't been anyone at these meetings indicating that they have an issue with the coverage provided, so.
Yeah,
I do get a couple, and I will forward it to Roger, and he'll text me back, we'll put somebody in that area.
yeah, they seem to be good about that, if you know.
They're very good about
if you
that.
say, hey,
The problem on this road, they'll,
Yeah.
Duffy Hill, they're over
Is
there,
it
where
that?
I'm screaming that
they
shit.
did one for,
Gilman Road,
they did one at Gilman Road.
West Hill Road, they've done.
yeah,
So.
yeah, so I'm
Good with it.
over with that
Good to sign.
contract.
Will you vote on it?
Yeah, just take a motion to accept the sheriff's contract for,
I'll make a motion to accept the sheriff's contract.
Yep, I'll second it.
and that's, just a 1-year contract, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, for the year 21 to 22.
520 hours.
All right. We have the motions, all those in favor?
Alright,
Aye.
So, is that all set? How many more payments we got on the backhoe?
it's like 2, right? Or no?
One more,
One more?
that truck and that one's one more thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Will we just owe on the 2 tandems?
We'll only owe on the new truck.
You got any applicants in since we posted the or did we post it
Did
yet?
not. I did, because are we gonna ask for water, or is it just gonna be highway?
I would say just highway.
Just highway. Okay, that.
I mean,
I didn't wanna run it until I knew for sure what we were looking for.
I don't wanna speak for the whole board now, I mean, putting it in there doesn't hurt, but
But it's not being a stipulation, it's not in
I
there.
don't, I believe we talked about that not being a stipulation for hiring, or for hiring.
We had Paul and Liz Boyer from, where are they from?
Are they from water supply?
Yes, they came in, because Hubert was talking to them about things that we needed to have corrected, like a couple manholes and a couple lines down on the sewer. And the funds that he could use for those repairs is the money that we're gonna receive in our, it's not a separate fund.
So it's the same relief, or the same relief thing?
There's a lot of things to do for that money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like there might be more coming.
But there's a county, I don't think they made a decision on that yet. It's county funds, but our town funds should be coming. The last day to sign up was July 15th or 16th. But the county funds, they haven't decided yet.
Right.
All right, is there anything else we need to discuss before we go into executive session? Discuss this hydro business. No?
Nope.
Take a motion, we go into executive session then.
I'll make a motion to move into executive session.
Alright, we will enter into executive session and when we come back out, we will adjourn for the night.
You got it?